All right, let's begin. Thank you again for joining us for today's webinar on how to build an effective loyalty program in the Amazon age. We're super excited to have Robbie Kelman-Baxter as our co-host today. Robbie is a management consultant with over 20 years of experience. She's a customer loyalty expert, a best-selling author, and highly sought-after keynote speaker. We're thrilled to have her here today sharing her insights on fostering customer loyalty. We also have our CEO, Manish Chaudhary, an e-commerce and SaaS expert who will be able to provide targeted insight on how merchants can build a successful rewards program that engages customers. So before we jump right in, let's go over a few housekeeping rules. First, if you have any questions, please type them in to the Q&A section, and you can do this at any point during the webinar. Don't do it in the chat section. At the end of the presentation, we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. Don't worry if you don't get to your question, because we'll make sure it's answered via email. And finally, to show our appreciation for the time you're spending with us, we'll be giving away a copy of Ann Janzer's book, Subscription Marketing, to one lucky random winner who stays until the very end of the webinar. And without further ado, let me turn it over to Manish.
Thank you, Andy. Very glad to be here, and I want to thank all our participants for joining us on this webinar on the very interesting topic of building an effective loyalty program in the Amazon age. I don't have to talk about how empowered the customers are today. Internet has really created a global marketplace with an explosion of choices, and as a result, the switching costs have dramatically reduced, and what that has done is put a premium on customer experience. And what this is leading to is the deal-seeking mentality in customers. According to a source, BES, they conducted a study in 2013, shopper behavior. They found that 80% of shoppers look for deals today before they go shopping. So customer loyalty today is more important to retailers than ever before, because it's very easy for your customer to click over to your competitor's website or literally go and do a Google search and find another seller for your product. So retailers and merchants today need to find a way to engage with customers in order to gain their loyalty. And all of you who are joined here today are tasked with coming up with strategies to engage those customers and differentiate yourself in this highly competitive space and rise above the noise. So while a number of things have changed, marketplace has changed, customer behavior has changed, one thing that hasn't changed is really the cost of new customer acquisition. You know, this was true 50 years ago, that a cost to acquire a brand new customer is far more expensive than keeping an existing one. In fact, it is 7 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than to keep an existing loyal one. And this is data coming from 2016 Bond Loyalty Report. So it's pretty accurate and pretty relevant and timely data. And additionally, if you could simply increase your customer retention by just 5%, you can actually increase your profit by 95%. So it all seems obvious, you know, however, there's a big disconnect. What we find is retailers are actually only spending about 22% of their budget on marketing to existing customers, as opposed to, and these existing and repeat customers actually make up 41% of the retailer's revenue. So you'd imagine that if you were to just do things in the same equation, you should really be spending a lot more on retention marketing than cost of customer acquisition. And historically, customer retention programs haven't really been top of mind for retail marketers. And if they have any sort of programs, it has really focused around creating number of transactions or getting people to come into the store, very monetary, as opposed to the value that really drives customer behavior and engagement. It's really important to think about loyalty and loyalty, why loyalty matters and how loyalty pays off. 73% of members that join your loyalty program are more likely to recommend your brand if it has a good loyalty program, which means there'll be a boost in member acquisition, meaning new members will join as a result of referral and at a lower marketing cost. And the customers that join as a result of that referral tend to actually stay with your program and with your brand a lot longer than other members that you acquire on your own, which is 37% more. A case in point is I'm a very loyal American Express user. I've always used American Express for most of my business purchases, and very recently last year, one of my close friends recommended Chase Inc. You know, I had ignored Chase Inc. for a very long time, and as a result of his referral and recommendation, I actually signed up for the Chase Inc. program. So just a personal experience that these referrals from loyal members play a huge role in acquiring new members. And beyond that, basically, customer engagement and loyalty is another big advantage. There are a number of companies that are doing this really well, and here are a few that comes to mind. And these companies have really figured out how to excel in terms of their loyalty programs. And as a matter of fact, companies like Costco and Amazon, in fact, a lot of their profits come from membership fees from their rewards program. So the rewards program are not free, but there's a fee associated with that. Customers are willing to pay, and these companies expect a lot of their profits to come from those membership fees. Leaving all membership programs aside, you know, nothing compares to the Amazon Prime program. I mean, Amazon Prime is kind of the king of loyalty today. According to a report from Consumer Intelligence Search Partners, Amazon Prime memberships increased 35% just last year to about 54 million members. And according to a CNN Money report that came out earlier this year, Amazon Prime now reaches nearly half of all U.S. households. So this is kind of the real king of membership and rewards and loyalty. And I think it's a great segue to pass on to Ravi, who has dedicated 15-plus years studying the membership economy, helping a number of companies. So, Ravi, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Manish. You know, it's funny that you're talking about Amazon Prime, which is, you know, one of my very favorite membership loyalty programs. And I'm sitting here right now with a box of Promax bars on my desk, and they were a little bit stale. And so I'm an Amazon Prime member, and I told them, hey, you know, I bought 2 boxes, one of them's fine, one seems a little stale, and they immediately said, we're sending you a new one, you should get it today. So talk about feeling recognized and feeling like I belong. They trust me enough that they're not even asking me to make the return. They're actually just sending me a replacement and taking me at my word. And that makes me feel like a member. It's hard to put into words, but that sense of belonging, of recognition, is really what membership is about. I always love to start any talk that I do by asking the audience what they're a member of. And if you see in the chat box on your screen, if you want to just mention what you're a member of, that's awesome. I can share a bunch of my favorite organizations of which I'm a member. There's everything from, hospitality like Caesars Entertainment to SaaS like Salesforce, American Express, as Manish mentioned, LinkedIn online community, AARP, which probably nobody on this call is old enough to know what it is. So I'll tell you, it's the Association for the Advancement of Retired Persons, which is really about helping people in the United States over 50 to live their best and fullest lives. Weight Watchers uses membership. Pandora uses membership. All of these organizations share the objective of trying to build a long-term formal relationship with the customer, of trying to move that customer from being in what I think of as being in consumer mode, which is trying to make the best decision based on the features and benefits of the options in front of me, to member mode, which is really about me taking off that hat of discernment and saying, this is the group that I belong to. All of these organizations are really trying to do that. One of my favorites is Netflix. So I first started thinking about this concept of the membership economy when I was working with Netflix. I was consulting to them about 15 years ago. And it was interesting because I had already fallen in love with Netflix as a consumer. I loved 3 Out at a Time. I loved always having, my list of movies handy so that I didn't have to remember, what titles I wanted. And of course, I love no late fees. I also loved that they seemed to be getting to know me as I used their service. And over time, their recommendation engine actually helped me to identify new titles that I was likely to enjoy. And, it's been a while now, but Netflix was really one of the first organizations to really take their big data and use it to improve the experience for their members and actually give them the feeling that they were known. And then, I ended up working with Netflix, helping them with acquisition, a little pricing work, lots of different things. I really fell in love with the company. What I loved about the company was their relentless focus on doing one thing really well. And this is important. They didn't think of themselves as a DVD subscription business or as a source of movies. They always described themselves as having a mission of providing professionally created video content in the most efficient way possible with cost certainty. So if you tease that apart, you see that it actually gives them a lot of flexibility to change over time, but it also keeps a really narrow focus on doing something that consumers really love, which is, I want good content and I want it delivered in the most efficient way possible, and I don't want late fees. I don't want to be surprised by the cost. And over the last 15 years for Netflix, that's meant moving from DVDs to streaming content to now actually creating original content. So lots of changes in how they deliver, but what they've done is continued to focus on really understanding the needs of the people that they serve. So in other words, they love their customers or their members more than they love their own products. So that brings me to kind of, what the membership economy really is. I've been, throwing this term around. I wrote a book on this topic. So what the heck is the membership economy? It's really about 4 things. The first is about a transformation from ownership to access. It's about a move from a one-time payment to many smaller recurring payments. It can be about a move from the transactional to the relational, and from the anonymous transaction to the known relationship. And finally, it's about going from one-way communication where we as companies and organizations are yelling at our members through advertisements, through billboards, through flyers to buy our stuff. Now we're actually opening up the conversation to feedback and actually, in many cases, enabling all of our customers to communicate with one another in an open way under our umbrella. So when you take these 4 elements together, you get what I think of as the tools for the membership economy. And a lot of times people ask me, do you need to have all 4 of these in order to truly join the membership economy? And the answer, of course, is no. This is really about a continuum. And these 4 transformations, each one of them has enabled new and disruptive business models to enter the market and really change the way that organizations interact with their customers. So, one that I want to focus on for this particular group is moving from a focus on transactional, that is what went in the cart and what did they buy today, where the moment of transaction is actually the finish line, to actually thinking about the moment of transaction as the starting line for a relationship. Knowing that person who's come in and made a transaction and smoothing out the relationship to get to know them, to continue to provide them with better experiences, and most importantly, to value the long-term relationship over the short-term revenue.
Right.
So
I know, Robbie, you're going to talk about particularly from an e-commerce angle, and I know you're going to cover innovative business models that have emerged in the e-commerce vertical in particular, about subscription boxes and how people are thinking about commerce, the traditional online retailers where they're selling widgets and every time the customer comes and pays for it, to something that is more recurring, more predictable. Would you like to touch on that?
Yeah, sure. I'm glad to. So, yeah, Manish, there's absolutely a bunch of ways that that e-commerce companies are really tapping into the benefits of the membership economy. You talked about Amazon Prime, the big behemoth in this space, and what they're doing is providing certain benefits, service around the transaction, right? You get your stuff in one day. You have easier and more trusted returns. They also are providing greater access to additional benefits and services. I sort of think of Amazon Prime as being like a Trojan horse. We pay our money, we get the free shipping, which is what most people want, but then we also get access to their digital products and services, which is actually a new space for them. So you can use your membership as a way of introducing your best customers to new opportunities and new ways to engage with the organization. So that's a second thing. You mentioned subscription boxes. So this is really all the rage right now, this concept of, discovery boxes. I think if you look at my subscription addiction, I think there's like, 4,000 or 5,000 different subscription boxes that you can get right now. And that's all about discovery. It's about curation. And again, it goes back to knowing your customers or your members so well that you can provide them with ideas and suggestions of what else they might want. And then another way that I see e-tailers participating in the membership economy is through replenishment models. So if there are so many things in our home and our business that need to be replaced that we never want to run out of, everything from,
from
shampoo,
coffee to Kleenex.
Yeah, coffee to Kleenex, and organizations that can anticipate that timing and make sure that we never run out of the things we most value, and maybe even give us a little discount, are actually really thriving. So examples there, Dollar Shave Club, which kind of came out of nowhere and this year was acquired by Unilever for $1 billion. That's a great example. And Amazon, again, as the big behemoth, they're doing it with their Dash button, and they're also doing it with their Subscribe and Save program, where you get, a 5 or 10% discount in exchange for subscribing on a regular replenishment timetable. So those are all examples of organizations on the retail side that are taking part in membership. And a really important thing to point out is that you don't have to be big to do this. In fact, smaller organizations that are really focused on a particular identity, a particular persona, really have a tremendous advantage. If you think about Amazon, they have to be all things to all people, which is very ambitious and kind of overwhelming. But if you think about, for example, Sephora, the beauty company that is really focused on women who love beauty products, providing, multiple loyalty tiers, going all the way up from their Beauty Insider to their very important Beauty Insider, which they call VIB, like VIP, but with a B for beauty, and then their VIB Rouge members, which is their top level. And these women actually have access to unlimited makeovers, they get presents for their birthdays, they get exclusive parties and events to meet with other people that love beauty, they get forums and access to give feedback to the organization. So really understanding a particular kind of consumer has been Sephora's secret sauce in their dramatic growth. So hopefully I've given you a sense, Manish, and your audience a sense of the different kinds of ways that, e-commerce companies are really joining the membership economy.
Thank you, Robbie. And I have several other examples that I'll cover as we move further into the presentation of smaller companies, online only, online and offline, and how creatively these companies are utilizing membership and loyalty programs to extend both customer engagement and their revenues and profits.
Great, I'll look forward to that. Should I keep going?
Yep.
Okay. So, this is not such a new concept, membership. Charles Dickens wrote his books using a subscription model. That was how he paid his own expenses while he wrote. Membership has been around since, the trade guilds and professional associations of the Renaissance. Membership is what brings us together in organized religion. When we have other people trying to achieve the same mission, the same goal, gathering together to support one another and work together. And membership is how we feel with our favorite sports teams. And it's that little connection when you see somebody with the same logo as you, feeling like maybe they're a little more trustworthy and a little more authentic because they share in being fans of the same organization. And that's true even if we don't play the same sport or know any of the players. So since membership's been around for such a long time, you might be wondering why this membership economy is taking off now. And, there's really two reasons, and they're kind of tied together. The first is the tremendous advances in technology. What I would say is that the technology advances are extending the infrastructure that enables trusting relationships. So the examples I gave you all relied on face-to-face connection, being in the same place at the same time. But in the membership economy, you can actually replicate or extend that experience of connection through mobile devices, through always-on devices, through big data analytics, which make people feel known because you understand from their behavior what kind of person they are and can anticipate what they might need, and through the ability that consumers have now to create and distribute their own content. That is, if I buy a new blouse, I can actually take a picture of myself, post that picture, and in seconds have, thousands, if not millions of other people see me in this blouse that I just bought and read my review. So all of that has been enabled by an influx of venture capital investing. And what's interesting about the venture investing is that they're giving money to entrepreneurs and creative disruptors who have an idea that might take several years to pay off. So if you're a small business owner and you're competing with a company that has venture backing, if you can go back to the other slide, please. If you're competing with a company that has venture backing, you actually have a big disadvantage because they don't have to make a profit for 5 or even 7 years. They have a long runway to build that long-term formal relationship with their customers, to build trust, even if they're operating at a loss as they build that relationship. And once they have that relationship, effectively they have what I would call a forever transaction with that consumer, where the consumer is so loyal to them that they're really not looking for alternatives. Now, next slide. It's easy to understand why companies love the membership economy, right? As Manish pointed out, you know, getting your retention up by just 5% can mean a 95% increase in profits. I mean, that's great. Having predictable revenue, maybe tapping into recurring revenue, having loyal members who bring in referrals, all of that makes for a great business. It makes it easier to plan ahead. It makes it easier to make investments. And of course, your own investors love that predictable cash flow, and it often will increase, you know, being able to demonstrate that your customers are loyal has a huge impact on your valuation. But what I want you to also think about, next slide, is, you know, what's in it for your customers? You know, people often say, I want to have a loyalty program because I heard all those great benefits that you get from loyalty. You know, I want to get referrals. I want to lower my marketing costs. I want to, you know, I want to have more predictable revenue. But the question is, well, what's in it for the members? Why would they join your loyalty program? And more importantly, why would they stay? And it's really, you know, you really have to focus on that moment. What is it that's going to make them stay? How is the loyalty program going to improve their lives? And what I would suggest that you think about when you're designing your loyalty program, next slide, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Abraham Maslow was a psychologist in the 1940s, and he built this pyramid that you've probably seen before, and he basically said that all humans have the same needs. Once our basic physiological needs have been met, things like food, shelter, Wi-Fi, we move up the chain, wanting to mitigate risk, wanting to be recognized by our peers, and then wanting to be held in high regard for them, being admired for our contributions and our achievements. And then ultimately, we want to free ourselves from the really mundane challenges of like going to the store and buying stuff to actually self-actualize, which is really a way of reaching our full potential. Organizations.
And I think, Bobby, what's really interesting here is none of these, once you go beyond the physiological, are monetary in nature. And brands and companies often think that what customers want most is discounts and fee off. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, it's such a good point, Manish, because you're right. Like when people, you know, when I ask people sometimes, like, what do your customers want? They always say, oh, customers want lower prices. But the truth is, we all will pay a premium for organizations and products and services that we connect with, that make us feel good about ourselves, that make us feel secure, that make us feel connected. I mean, I don't know, when I am looking for a doctor, I'm not looking for the cheapest heart surgeon. I'm looking for the one that's going to keep me alive, right? And when I'm buying clothes, I'm not looking for the cheapest clothes. I might be looking for the best value, but I'm looking for clothes that make me feel good about myself, that make me look the way I want to look, project the image I want to project, feel comfortable, and so on. So absolutely, when somebody tells you they want a lower price, what they're really saying is, I don't know what else you can do for me, but given that this is all the value you can provide for me, I'd like it to be given at a lower price. So what they're saying when they want a lower price is, I have no faith that you have any ability to offer me more value.
That's an excellent point, Bobby. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So what does all this mean for you as business executives and owners? This is really a massive transformational shift, not just in the way that all of these companies are doing business, but in consumer expectation. They expect you to recognize them, to know them, to adjust the way you treat them based on that knowledge, and to reward them. And this can be formal through an official program, which I think is basically a tactic. But more importantly, it comes from your attitude towards them of really being interested in their long-term success. So there's a lot of different kinds of organizations that are tapping into this. And I want to show you this because I know that most of you that are on this call are really focused on retail, but a lot of the competition is coming from left field. So when you think about what's the value you provide beyond the ability to buy stuff, like, you know, we all, like as Manish just pointed out, we buy stuff for more important reasons, not just to have it, but to mitigate risk, to look like everybody else or feel like we belong, to be admired by others, to reach our full potential. These organizations that are up on the screen right now, all of these organizations are tapping into those human needs and are working very hard to build long-term relationships with customers. So, you know, you might certainly look at, you know, what is Starbucks doing to build loyalty with their rewards program, or how does Caesars Entertainment empower their frontline team members to support their loyalty programs. But what I want you to also think about is, what can you learn from LinkedIn? What can you learn from what my local bookstore, Kepler's, is doing by blending online and offline, by providing, you know, I think this year they're doing over 270 live events to bring people together in our community to really become a place for discovery and sharing of new ideas. What can you learn from SurveyMonkey, you know, doing subscription software? There's so many organizations that are innovating right now. I really encourage you to think about how these different companies and what they're doing can apply to your business.
Robbie, in your book, you have a very interesting example where you talk about fall in love with the problem you're solving, fall in love with the mission and not your product. And I know we have a number of retailers here that, you know, that may think of the product as something else. And you have a very interesting case study on AARP on how they went over this problem. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So AARP, you know, as I mentioned earlier, their mission is to improve the quality of life of Americans over 50. And they have all kinds of things. They have insurance, they have healthcare, they have products, they have courses, they have a magazine. And last year I was meeting with them, and they were about to launch a new hardware product called the RealPad, which is basically a tablet device for seniors, because they had realized that their members were really struggling with mobile technology. The buttons were too small, there were too many apps to choose from, they couldn't figure out how to download apps and which ones they would want and how to use them. They wanted to talk to a human being. They had all kinds of requirements. And so AARP actually created a requirements document and shopped it around to a lot of the big hardware manufacturers, you know, the Amazons and Samsungs and Apples of the world. Nobody wanted to build it. So AARP built it themselves. They hired a contract manufacturer. They built out this RealPad using their own spec. They marketed it. And I met with them just before they were going to launch it. And I said to them, you know, what are you going to do if it's successful and Amazon turns around the next week, as Amazon often does, with the Kindle for seniors? And it's half the price of yours, and they put you out of business for that product. And he said, you know, Robbie, this is Kevin Donnellan, who is the EVP there and in charge of products. He said, you know, Robbie, I am not in the business of hardware. I'm in the business of improving the quality of life of people over 50. So, you know, if somebody else wants to take on one element of solving that problem, that's fine with me. I'll move on to the next thing. I have a long list of things that I can do to improve the quality of life of the people that I serve. And, you know, when I think about retailers, it's the same thing. If you're, you know, there's a, you know, as many of you know, there's a rise in the number of companies that are now delivering food for dinners, you know, everything from Blue Apron to Grubhub to DoorDash. I mean, there's all different kinds of approaches to providing ready-made meals. None of them, in my opinion, are in the food delivery business. What they're in the business of doing is improving family time, efficiency, health. Those are really the benefits. And if they focus on those, on whatever, you know, they each may have their own mission, but focus on that mission and really understanding that customer, they're going to see new opportunities to add new products, to evolve the offerings that they have, and to continue to defend and protect the relationship that they have with the customers that they serve, to really have true loyalty. So I've talked a lot, so I'm going to turn it back over to Manish to finish us off here.
Thank you, Ravi. Very insightful information. And let's talk about how do we go about building an engaging loyalty program. Now that we know loyalty is super important, let's figure out the mechanics. The truth of the matter is that people do join loyalty programs and memberships, but majority of them do not interact with it, do not actively use it. So just by getting a new member to sign up for your program is really the beginning of the end. And the numbers show that only 44% of the members are very satisfied with their loyalty program experience. So it's really important to design a really effective loyalty program, not just any loyalty program. And as you can see, most users will have about 13 or 14 memberships, and they're only active in about half of them. So you want to be on the other side where you are one of those active loyalty programs for your members. So let's figure out, how do we get our members to be satisfied with our loyalty program, and how can we have a successful program? Number one, it starts with your brand alignment. The program should deliver the experience that lives up to the brand promise, right? The Amazon's promise is free shipping and free, easy delivery of products, error-free, quickly to your doorstep. So their program, Amazon Prime, is around free shipping, because even if you are a procrastinator, you can order something on Friday and have it delivered on Saturday. And in fact, now you can potentially even order it Saturday, and they're also starting to do Sunday deliveries. Number two, need fulfillment, meaning what you're offering to your members as rewards, is that what they value? If Amazon had started with free movies or free digital content as their core message or core value, where the members really wanted expedited shipping, their program, Amazon Prime, perhaps might not have been just as successful. So it's really important that your program is delivering what your customers want and value. Number three is the program enjoyment experience. As a matter of fact, the enjoyment experience of the program is even more important than the rewards that you offer, meaning how easy it is to redeem the rewards that you've provided. So for example, if you're offering both in-store and online reward redemption, however, in order to take advantage of the rewards that you've accumulated, you need to sign up for a form, and then 3 days later, they're going to send you an email with a code that you can finally use to redeem. That's a horrible user experience. And I'll share some case studies that we have from our clients at GoEcart, where we make this super easy for our brands and our merchants to take advantage of the loyalty program that works and simple to use. So these are some of the key attributes when you're thinking about designing a loyalty program that works. In terms of best practices, I know we've covered some of these. When you're starting out, if you have a loyalty program in place, or if you don't, and you're thinking about creating one, you may not fully know what your customers truly value. So one of the things you might consider doing is creating a focus group or a customer advisory group of some of your best customers, and understand the demographic that you're serving and what they might be interested in. And once you understand, there might be multiple segments within that demographic that wants to engage with your program and with your brand a bit differently. And then you may want to consider doing some kind of a beta, or trial, if you will, with limited number of members. These are some of your trusted customers that will provide feedback And that will allow you to improve this program before you roll it out to your larger audience. This is something that what you don't want is roll it out to everyone and learn on the job, and customers are disenchanted right from the beginning because it'll be very hard to get them to win over later. So start small, test, optimize, and then consider rolling out to the larger audience. The number 3 is keeping the program simple and straightforward. You don't want the customer to go through multiple layers of hoops. For example, you sign up for a form, then that sends you a code, and then that code you have to enter at a different place on the website, and then finally you're enrolled and things of that nature. You got to make it really simple and straightforward. And we have a couple of excellent clients. Badgley Mischka, they are a red carpet brand for women's apparel, cocktailware, dinnerware, and they have a very simple program where you get 5% off in rewards for every purchase you make. And beyond that, the credits are instant. The minute you make the purchase, you're enrolled into the program, you get those credits, and you can come back and redeem it literally the very next second if you wanted to go and place a second order. So keep it really simple and straightforward. Deliver a clear value proposition. Again, going back, define 2 or 3 things that are really the hallmark of this program. For example, for Amazon Prime, when they started, it was all about free, unlimited, 2-day shipping. That's super simple, super easy to understand. Everybody gets it. Everybody wants it. If they went about saying, hey, by the way, we also have, free digital content, when the library was really small in the beginning and customer went and thought if that was the core value proposition, they might be disappointed because they search for a brand new movie and they don't find it in their library, and if they weren't promoting those additional stuff. So keeping the value proposition very simple and something that resonates with your audience is very important. And then try to go beyond the expectations, like delight and surprise. So even though the customer may not expect something from the program, so if you're a VIP customer, you order something online, they get a free sample. Even though the program and the brand did not promise that, that is something as a great surprise that creates additional engagement and loyalty.
Right, it's a great point because I just wanted to toss something in here on surprise. When you have a program that doesn't have an element of surprise, you're at risk of it starting to look like a financial transaction. That is, I buy a certain number of things, and in exchange, I get a discount, which really is not about loyalty at all. It's about, bulk purchasing or frequency, discounts for bulk or for volume or frequency of purchase. And what we're really trying to do here is build a feeling of loyalty through the program.
Oh, that's a great point. Otherwise, it's an exchange of otherwise consider an exchange of value. I buy X, you give me 5%, so I expect 5% every time I buy, and that's all I get, and so we are even Steven, and that doesn't create loyalty.
Just business. That's just business.
Yep. Yeah. And what in the previous slide, if you go back, please, Caroline, what you'll notice is none of these satisfaction drivers are monetary. That's something that we touched on earlier, that people think that customers want discounts and money off. That's the easiest target in the absence of other value. So really, when you think about loyalty program, what you give back in rewards, the monetary rewards, is just the beginning, if you will, and not the end. Then let's go a little bit of the extra mile, which is, how do we inject an element of fun and create some personality around your program? So we have a very successful client called Soccer Pro. Soccer Pro has their loyalty program, and instead of just calling it, loyalty program, they really call it, because they're Soccer Pro, their loyalty program is My Profile. You know, so it's really they're injecting a little bit of brand, a little bit of personality, you know, and these are the things that they say. In addition to creating a creative name, you know, what do I get? You get free membership. You instantly join with your first order. You don't have to do a thing. No minimum purchase. Let's not add barriers to joining the program. You get points instantly. You're not waiting for the next day. You know, part of it is our platform because it's all real time. It's cloud-based. You don't have to wait for the following day to get your points. You can see it immediately. So if you bought a nice pair of cleats and you forgot socks, you can come back and potentially apply that discount to the stock at the very next purchase. There's no restriction. You don't have to make a purchase up to $200 before you qualify. And these are some of the attributes of going the extra mile in a loyalty program. The number second is make the points sound like a real treasure, meaning, again, points are points. You know, you have credit cards that give you points. You don't want to be forgotten. You want to, as Robbie mentioned on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, you want to feel esteemed, you want to feel liked. So there are a number of companies out there that are doing some really creative stuff with it, you know, whether you want to call them coins or stars or diamonds. As a really nice example from a company, they're not a client of ours, but we really like what they're doing with it. It's called Simply Party Supplies, and their website is simplypartysupplies.co.za. So they're located offshore. And what they're doing is something very interesting, and they're probably taking it a little bit far, but you know, by signing up using Facebook or Twitter, customers can earn points, not just for making a purchase, but for everyday action, like visiting important pages, viewing products, liking the product, tweeting, commenting, writing reviews, things of that nature. And when you do any of these actions or complete a task or a range of tasks, you get these things called badges. And they're injecting a form of gamification into their loyalty program. And once you get certain badges and then you get certain levels of fame or names, and they have really creative names, you know, where they basically they call it, you know, the super shopper or the shopping superstar, to the cheapskate if you only buy one item or things like that. So they're really having a little fun with it, and they're rewarding not just purchases but actions, and combined with badges and these names. And it's clearly visible on their website as they progress and traverse, so it's not hidden. It's all part of their customer experience. And then offer more than just discounts, as we talked about. That monetary is the easiest target. I'd like to urge our members, our viewers, and everybody on the call is to go beyond that. And this is very important. People think that let's enroll more members. And the more members we have, that's the metric of success for the loyalty program. And what happens in most loyalty programs, you will see traction. You know, people will join, but the defection rate is after you reach the peak, and then you reach a plateau, and what will happen is customers will start defecting and their loyalty program starts failing. And what brands and retailers must pay careful attention to, it's not just about earning the reward, it's making sure that all the people that are earning the reward are actually redeeming the reward. I know, it sounds paradoxical, right? I mean, you gave them this virtual currency, you probably don't want to, you know, most people, you don't want them to use it because it's going to erode your profits, but it is crucially important because if there's a flaw in the redemption experience, that reward is not going, that program is not likely to succeed. And you can see that if people have accumulated rewards and they don't redeem, they're likely to defect at almost 2.5 to 3 times the rate. I know, Robbie, you have some comment there, looks like.
Yeah, I was going to, I mean, I think we're in violent agreement here. You know, the thing that I think people forget, it's like creating a pile of flyers and then not giving them out because you want to save money. The whole point of loyalty programs is engagement. You actually want people to engage fully, both in the accumulation of rewards and also in the benefits of those rewards, because what you're trying to do is create a feeling of connection and value. So actually, you know, as you talked about earlier, this idea that the moment of transaction is the starting point, not the finish point. Once somebody joins a loyalty program, that's when you really want to deepen the connection. And ensuring that they are getting the benefits that they're entitled to is a really key component to deepening the relationship.
Right. I'll use some real example of some personal experience that we have. So BestBuy.com, and not to throw them under the bus, you know, they do a really fantastic job of rewards, but you know, you get, I believe, 3 to 5% in terms of cashback savings, which you have to wait to generate $5 gift certificates, and you have to first go accumulate enough points, then you can generate these certificates in increments of $5, and on the checkout process, there is no indication that you have any of these rewards pending. If you forgot and did not use it at the time of purchase, those rewards are useless. And then the brand is asking me to go and generate these certificates, then I have to come back to my checkout experience and apply that certificate as savings. There's a lot of friction. And at GoEcart, you know, with our Merchant Soccer Pro that's doing a fantastic job, the points are right there, right next to your credit card payment. You know, if you want to apply them, it's one-click operation. And that's, you know, ease of redemption is supremely important to the success of the loyalty program. And I cannot emphasize that enough, because as we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's the point, that's the experience that the customer should feel delighted, esteemed, valued socially, and you don't want to create barriers in that process. And one other point, which is in terms of adoption, is mobile. You know, I think as we are in the age of mobile, more than 50% of the traffic now for e-commerce websites are coming from mobile. And if you have a brick and mortar store, you know, you don't want a physical card. You know, a lot of times I've found brands that I cannot redeem because I have a physical card, and if I forgot that at home, I'm screwed. I can't use it. You know, that's the old way. You've got to allow for mobile redemption,
Totally.
that mobile card.
Yeah,
Rob,
I was just going to jump in and say, not only is it a bummer when you forget your card and you're told you can't use it, but it sounds ridiculous. You're like, well, I know you're capable of doing it, so why can't you just look up my number and just take care of me? Because that's the whole point of loyalty, is you're taking care of me.
Precisely. In fact, at GoEcart, I mean, we have multiple touch points. Our customers, our consumers can approach our brands from the website. They have loyalty points built in. They can call the call center, and the call center should be just as equipped to redeem those points without asking for long 20-digit alphanumeric numbers. And knowing the customer profile after they've authenticated and validated them, it's a one-click operation. So this integration of the different departments and channels, that is where it all comes together. And the brands must look at themselves and their program, not in silo, that, hey, this is a loyalty program for online and not for the call center and not for the store. It is all together. I think there's one last point that I'll run over very quickly, you know, to allow for some questions. I know we kind of took a lot of time here. If you had to finally measure the effectiveness of your loyalty program, you know, these are the 4 key KPIs that you should pay attention to, and I'll run over very quickly. Customer retention rate, meaning after you put this program in place, you should have more customers stay with you longer. If that is not happening, your program is failing. Negative churn, which means, you know, your existing customers, even if they're defecting, the customers that do stay are buying more. So net-net, you're actually increasing your revenue, whether it's recurring revenue or from the existing customer as a result of the loyalty program, in spite of the defections. Net Promoter Score, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, it is a survey that your customer satisfaction metric, how likely they are to recommend your brand to other customers. So that should go up as a result of this loyalty program. And the last one is the customer effort score, which is how much effort does your customer have to put forth in order to solve problem with your company. So the hallmark of a great loyalty program is it should be easier to work with you as a company if I'm a member, if I'm a highly regarded member, as opposed to I wasn't a member. So life should be easier when I'm participating in a loyalty program than if it were without one. So I know we don't have a lot of time for questions, but Indy, please take it away.
Sure. Guys, that was amazing. Great information, lots of food for thought and action. So thank you very much, both Robbie and Manish. And if anyone wants to learn more about the membership economy, you can check out Robbie's best-selling book. It's right here up on the screen. And we'll jump right into Q&A. Sorry, we have very little time for it, but maybe we can take a couple. And please remember to stay until the very end for a chance to win Ann Janza's subscription marketing book. So let's pick one. So how can I create value to my customers without seriously compromising my margins? Who'd like to take that?
I'll take a shot at it, and then Manish probably has a thought too. You know, you have to think of, it's sort of like saying, how can I do a marketing program without affecting my margins? This is an investment in growth, and so what I would encourage you to do is think about the additional value that you expect to generate from the program. And, you know, I would suggest as a starting point, use the metrics that Manish outlined in his next to last slide. You know, are you getting better Net Promoter Scores? Are you reducing your churn rates? Are you retaining people? Are you increasing lifetime customer value? Those kinds of things are really where you should be focusing. And a well-designed program should impact those numbers. And if it's not, then the program's a failure, just like any other kind of program that you would invest in to achieve goals. But I think that the goal of you know, trying to do a loyalty program on the cheap and not impact margins that way, I think that's the wrong way to look at it.
Right. I think that's a great point, Robbie. You know, most often people blame the loyalty program as not working, and I would challenge that they must go back to the whiteboard and look at the design of the program as opposed to whether the program delivers economic value for the brand and the retailer or not. As we know, that only 5% increase in customer retention can lead to 95% increase in profits. And there are several great examples where other companies have done that very successfully. So before you write off the program, I would encourage the brands to go back and look at the design of the program, tweak, try a few different things, and as long as you're moving the needle, loyal customers always pay off.
All right, guys, we're out of time. Thank you so much, Robbie and Manish, for the wonderful presentation.